Yo, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to another video. So this fine evening, we had a pretty massive piece of news drop as it was reported by Darren Dreger that on Wednesday, Austin Matthews is going to be announced as the next captain of the Toronto Maple Leafs, stripping John Tavares of the captaincy. I gave if you follow me on other forms of social media, you know my thoughts on this. It's obviously the right call. Tavares was the captain for 5 years. The results were absolute dog shit for the team that the Leafs had. And Austin Matthews is going to be there for the next decade. John Tavares has 1 year left where he's massively overpaid. You don't know if he's going to be there for a long time. So do it now. John Tavares probably should have never been given the captaincy in 2019. They probably just should have waited another year or two to give it to Austin Matthews. But that is out of the way. We know who the next captain of the Toronto Maple Leafs will be. So I want to do a fun exercise. I wanted to look at every single team in the NHL. Yes or no. I'm not just looking at the teams with captaincy vacancies. I think there's still like 6 or 7 remaining. I'm going through every single goddamn team. I'm going through your favorite team and picking who I think their next captain can be. And when looking at this, there's teams like the Ottawa Senators, the Vancouver Canucks, who have 24-year-old captains. I'm going to be predicting whenever those players leave in a decade, who's going to be the next captain after this. So I think this is going to be a fun little exercise. And without further ado, we're going to get into it. Up first, we have Bo Horvat for the New York Islanders. Current captain is obviously Anders Lee. And when looking at Horvat, I think he is a logical pick. Although Barzal has been there for far longer, Bo Horvat does have previous captain experience with the Vancouver Canucks. And he has really walked into, ever since the day that he arrives to the New York Islanders, he has been kind of a captain presence, a veteran presence. So I think for the Islanders, I think they're going to go with Horvat. I think they're going to stick with the guy that they handed a massive contract to and has previous captain experience. And I would be 1,000% on board with it. Next up, the Utah Hockey Club. They do not have a captain right now, and I think it is very obviously trending to be Clayton Keller. He is the face of the franchise at this point. I don't think you're going to give it to like a Logan Cooley or something. You're going to give it to the guy that has been there for like 7 seasons, and Clayton Keller, rightfully so, deserves it. He's 26 years old. He's really came into his own as a player, a lot more mature than he got started. So as a result, I think he's the pick for the captain. The New Jersey Devils, it's tough because Nico Hischier is pretty young, but when looking at it, if Jack Hughes outlasts Nico Hischier in New Jersey, I think he probably will end up being the captain as the best player on the New Jersey Devils, face of the franchise. Similar thought process with Clayton Keller. And come 2033, if Nico Hischier decides to leave for greener pastures, Jack Hughes will probably still be a top 15 player in the NHL. The Philadelphia Flyers, Sean Couturier is the current captain. He probably is going to be on the team for the rest of his contract, 6 years left. I am going to go with Cam York as the next captain. You can maybe go with Matt Michkov because he's going to be the best player, but I could easily see a guy like Cam York who will hopefully be their number 1 defenseman once Couturier is ready to pass it on. Carolina, Jacob Slavin. Jordan Stahl probably only has a couple years left, and Slavin has been the main defensive stalwart for a decade in Carolina. You could maybe go with Sebastian Aho. I think I'm going to go with Slavin just because he's been there long enough and is one of the most respected players in the entire NHL. I'm sure he's extremely respected in the Carolina Hurricanes locker room, so he's my pick for Carolina. Toronto, we already know it's Austin Matthews. Detroit, Moritz Seider. Current captain Dylan Larkin is what? 5 years older than Moritz Seider, so you assume that maybe Moritz Seider gets the captaincy at 33, 34 years old. I think if they were to repick a captain right now in terms of Dylan Larkin off the table, I think it would be Moritz Seider. So after another decade from now, Dylan Larkin finishes out his career, you give it to Moritz Seider for his final 5 years of his career in Detroit. The Columbus Blue Jackets, Adam Fantilli. Boone Jenner probably has another couple seasons remaining, and Adam Fantilli just carries himself like a captain. He is clearly the future face of the franchise while also being a great leader, and we have seen that on display both at Michigan as well as his first year in Columbus. I think he's a pretty shoe-in pick. Buffalo Sabres, Rasmus Dahlin, they are captainless right now. I think after signing Dahlin to that 8-year deal with $11 million, you are committing for him to be your number 1 defenseman, to be honestly the best player on your entire team, and he was your franchise first overall guy. Jack Eichel previously held the captaincy, so I think you give it to Rasmus Dahlin knowing that he is fully committed, unlike maybe a Jack Eichel, to be the face of the franchise for the next decade. Just get it done. Who else are you going to give it to? Like Tage Thompson, Alex Tuch, maybe Alex Tuch, but I would go with Rasmus Dahlin probably. The Washington Capitals gave Tom Wilson that atrocious 7-year deal at $6.5 million, knowing that baked into that AAV was an eventual captaincy once Ovechkin leaves in like 3 to 4 years. I think we have Ovechkin. He's probably going to remain in the NHL. So you give it to Tom Wilson. You're probably going to be going through some type of retool and rebuild there. You're going to want a veteran guy, a guy that has a ton of experience, ton of playoff experience, and kind of develop that next generation of Washington Capitals. And as a result, Tom Wilson. On the flip side of that, with the Pittsburgh Penguins, I don't know who to go with here because Sidney Crosby could go for another 4 to 5 years. And by then, everybody else, all the other top players on the Pittsburgh Penguins, could potentially be out of the league. I don't think it's going to be Michael Bunting. I'm going to go with Braden Yeager, the guy that they selected in the lottery in the 2023 draft. If he continues to develop, if he's showing promise at 23, 24 years old, once Sidney Crosby retires, maybe they give it to him after a year when he turns 25 and he's the next captain. They're probably going to land like Gavin McKenna or some bullshit, some generational talent. But out of the guys that are currently on their roster or currently in their system, I'm going to go with Braden Yeager. Similar thought process with the Edmonton Oilers. Connor McDavid is going to be there for another decade. Leon Draisaitl is going to be there for another decade. Bouchard's probably going to be there for another decade. So I'm going to go with Matthew Savoy, the guy that they acquired in the Ryan McLeod trade. 2022 ninth overall pick, was great this year in the WHL. He's 7 years younger than Connor McDavid, so maybe he continues to develop, turns into a serious core piece for the next decade for the Edmonton Oilers. And then when he's 32, 33, and McDavid either leaves or retires, he gets the captaincy. The Tampa Bay Lightning, you got to go with Victor Hedman after Steven Stamkos left. He's no doubt. You can lock it in. Maybe Braden Point because he'll be there for longer, but I think Victor Hedman has just given far too much to this franchise to not give him the captaincy at this point. For the Dallas Stars, Jamie Benn has 1 year left on his contract, so they could have a captain as soon as that, but I think he's probably going to re-sign for another 2 to 3 years. It's between Robertson and Heiskanen. I don't think that they give it to a Wyatt Johnston or definitely not even a Logan Stankoven. I'm going to go with Robertson. It's really a toss-up between him and Heiskanen. You give it to the All-American kid, Jason Robertson, and just let him run with it. But if it is Heiskanen, I will not be shocked one bit. Sticking in the Central Division, the Colorado Avalanche, it's going to be Nathan MacKinnon will be the next captain. Will Landeskog, hopefully he returns, but Nathan MacKinnon could be named the captain relatively soon if Landeskog cannot return from serious knee cartilage transplant surgery. It is very serious. So I think Nathan MacKinnon will be the next captain of the Colorado Avalanche. Winnipeg Jets. Right now it's Adam Lowry. I think once Lowry eventually departs the team, and I don't know, it could be soon, could be another 5 to 6 years, I'm going to go with Kyle Connor. Best player, best offensive player on the team right now. If he signs an extension after his 2 years, if not, maybe Josh Morrissey. Mark Scheifele, by the time Adam Lowry leaves, Mark Scheifele will probably be on the final years of his deal. That's the only reason I'm not going with Scheifele. So as a result, I'm going to go with Kyle Connor. I'm going to play it safe. If that American wants to re-sign, unlike some other players that came through Winnipeg, he'll probably get the captaincy. That'll probably be baked into him signing an extension in 2 years, maybe, that he gets the captaincy. The Nashville Predators, Roman Josi has 4 years left on his deal. I think naturally it would go to Philip Forsberg, who would be 32, 33 years old. Will have some more years left on his contract. Has been a massive piece to the Nashville Predators for the last decade, ever since that he got traded for Martin Erat at the deadline, one of the best deals of the 21st century. And you really crown that by making him your captain. And he's a great player in his own right. 48 goals, 46 assists for 94 points this season. The Chicago Blackhawks, I could see them selecting Nick Foligno now. I feel like they probably would have already done it. Maybe they'll do it before the season. But if it is not Nick Foligno this season, I think it's definitely going to be Connor Bedard, either the season after this, a year whenever he's 21, 22. When looking at Bedard, he's obviously the face of the franchise. Connor McDavid got it after his first season. Sidney Crosby got the captaincy very early. It's not like he's going to have any pressure. If he gets the captaincy now or next season to win a Stanley Cup, just give it to him. Let him grow into it. You're still 3 to 4 years away from contending at a high level. Let Connor Bedard continue to develop instead of giving it to Nick Foligno, who might be out the goddamn door the following season. St. Louis Blues, I would go with Robert Thomas as their next captain. He's their best player. Franchise center, has really came into his own the last couple of years. Braden Shen, love him, love his overall, the stuff that he has done in St. Louis, but he has 4 years left at $6.5 million, which is a brutal contract. Not sure how much longer he'll be after that contract is over. Give it to Robert Thomas, who will be 29, 30 years old, and still a highly elite center. The Montreal Canadiens, Nick Suzuki is still only 24 years old at this point, so I don't think it's happening anytime soon, but I would go with Slavkovsky, who's 5 years younger than Suzuki, already carries himself so well for a 20-year-old and just seems like a great overall guy, great personality. So I think when Suzuki retires at 37 years old, you give it to Slavkovsky, who will only be 32. The Anaheim Ducks, captainless. I think they should give it to Mason McTavish. Similar thought process to like a Dard. Give it to him now. Let him grow into it. Seems just like a great kid. Hard-nosed, physical presence. Give it to McTavish. I understand if they want to wait it a year or two and then give it to like a Leo Carlson. Love Leo Carlson. But right now, I think the pick should be Mason McTavish. I wouldn't give it to like a Cam Fowler who's starting to get up there in age. Troy Terry does make some sense, but right now I probably would go with Mason McTavish. The Boston Bruins, David Pastrnak. I thought that he arguably should have got it this time around. I understand Marchand has really put in his strides, but I just don't know how much longer Marchand's going to be there. I thought they should have just gave it to Pasta and let him again have it for the next decade. But I think after that, you maybe could give it to McAvoy, but I think Pasta is probably the right choice. The Minnesota Wild, Jared Spurgeon is the current captain. Probably going to have another 3 to 4 years. I think you give it to Joel Eriksson Ek after that. The two-way heartbeat of your team right now. I wouldn't hate giving it to Brock Faber or even Kirill Kaprizov or Matt Boldy, but I think Joel Eriksson Ek is just so well regarded on that team and just so beloved. And as a result, I would make Eriksson Ek the captain of the team. The Calgary Flames, Michael Backlund probably has another 2 to 3 years left in him. I think he signed like a 2-year extension. But after that, I think you give it to Mackenzie Weegar, veteran presence, help him develop the next generation of Flames, a highly regarded guy in NHL circles. And as a result, I think he's probably the next captain of the Calgary Flames. The Florida Panthers, one Finn to another, Barkov into Lundell. Lundell was great this year in the playoffs. I think he's going to have a very bright future. Eventually going to replace Sam Bennett as that second line center. And if he's there for the next 15 years for the Florida Panthers, once Barkov leaves or retires in like 2032 or something like that, Lundell takes the baton from Alexander Barkov. The LA Kings, Kopitar, it's weird because if he retires before Doughty, then it's going to be Doughty. If not, it's probably going to be Quinton Byfield. I'll bet on him retiring and then them just giving it to Drew Doughty, similarly to like Patrice Bergeron, Brad Marchand. So as a result, I have Drew Doughty becoming the next captain of the LA Kings. New York Rangers, Adam Fox. I ended up going with Vincent Trocheck. Trouba, I think we can agree, probably not going to be with the Rangers after these 2 years. Trocheck will still only be 32, 33 years old. And I feel like in his short stint there, he has become so beloved by the fans, so beloved by his teammates that he's kind of in a way like the heartbeat of the team. So I think I would maybe give it to him over an Adam Fox. I understand Adam Fox would be a safer pick considering the fact he'd only be 28 years old, probably there for the rest of his career. But I'd give it to Trocheck. I think that he has earned it given the overall impact that he has made on the on the New York Rangers the last year or so. Vancouver Canucks, Quinn Hughes is only 24, so I kind of got to go off the board. I'll go with Jonathan Lekkerimäki. I don't know. I kind of just shot in the dark there, considering Hughes is younger than Pettersson, Besser, and JT Miller. I don't think that I think Quinn Hughes is going to be in Vancouver for as long, especially after this season. I previously had jokingly mocked him to the New Jersey Devils. Now that they've had some playoff success, I think he's probably a Vancouver Canuck for life. And as a result, Lekkerimäki gets it when he's 31. 32 years old. The Seattle Kraken, Vince Dunn. I understand a lot of people say Matty Beniers. I think I'll go with Vince Dunn. Vince Dunn has Stanley Cup champion experience with the St. Louis Blues. More of a veteran guy. I think you'd give it to Dunn for 4 to 5 years. Then maybe you give it to Beniers once he's in his mid to late 20s. But right now, I personally would go with Vince Dunn. Then we got the Vegas Golden Knights. I think that Jack Eichel makes just too much sense here. I know you're going to his Buffalo Sabres tenure. I don't think that he's going to end up leaving Vegas. So when looking at it, Mark Stone with his body could be out of the NHL in like 2 to 3 years. Just give it to Jack Eichel and really just let him run with it. Then in the final two, we got the Ottawa Senators. Again, Brady Tkachuk is very young. I'm going to go with Jake Sanderson if he's there longer than Brady Tkachuk. I think that Sanderson has really just taken those steps in Ottawa and is going to be their number one defenseman. So if Brady Tkachuk leaves in 5 years to go team up with his brother or something like that, Jake Sanderson gets the captaincy. And then lastly, the San Jose Sharks. It's currently Logan Couture. He has multiple years left on his current deal. So as a result, I think once Macklin Celebrini is ready to go at 21-22, he's probably going to be the captain of the San Jose Sharks. But let me know in the comments, what do you think about these captaincy picks? Do you think I hit some of them nail on the head? When in a decade from now, 12 years from now, we'll look back on this video, see if I go 25 out of 32, and I'll be seeing you in the next one.